Welcome to episode 6 of The View with Vertex. I'm your host, Isaac Morrison, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. He's the operations director of Rose System Scaffolding. They are 100% Layher scaffolding business based in the north of England. Chris is the operations director, and he's going to come and speak to us about his role and journey in scaffolding. Without further ado, Chris, morning.
Morning. Welcome. Thanks for having us.
You just watched me bumble the intro, but maybe we'll do a bloopers reel next week. How have you been, mate?
I'm good, yeah. Good to be here.
So, Rose, before we go into the sort of story and delve into how Rose are doing now, because I think if you're based in the north of England, you know the success is there for everybody to see. Yeah. It seems to be doing really big things with Rose. As we always do, take it back to kind of the very beginning. Your sort of journey into scaffolding, how did you get into the trade?
So I got into scaffolding through watching two lads, John Savage and Desi Lee. When I was at school, I was in 5th year at school. Never really knew what I wanted to do, because you never do.
Yeah.
I've always worked with my brother, plastering and things like that, weekends and school holidays. So I thought I was going to go down that route anyway. And then seeing these two lads scaffolding, I thought, that looks good, that. Bet they get paid loads of money, and
you're saying one with danger money.
Danger money. I
remember saying that about loads of jobs. Like it's always when you're driving past the motorway, innit? But they're on danger money.
I wrote in. I sent a letter to SGB asking for like apprenticeship or trainee or whatever it would be at the time. I wrote to them and a company called Deborah Grayston, and I heard back from SGB and got the job. I was still at school, so I had to get a letter off my parents and to allow me to go when I was 16. So I started the yard when I was 16. I had to go back to school for my exams. Did nothing. Came away with absolutely nothing at all, because I wasn't really interested. I had a job, so you didn't.
You kind of switching off.
You think you know better then.
Yeah.
So that's how I started. So I started in the yard at SGB. Did 6 months. Trained properly, so you go in the yard, you learn all the parts, the fitting, the tube, get used to the weights, things like that. And then you go on to site then. 6 months again. No tools, not like nowadays where everyone's got the belts on, no matter how old they are. None of that. Don't allow any of that. Working with some great guys, you know what I mean, in 89.
Oh, you mentioned one there. It's like I probably said before, but John, definitely a mentor of mine. Built different, definitely built different from some of what you see now.
He was no different when I stopped working with him, probably 7 years ago when we left Allied. He was still the same then. Still a nightmare to work with. Everyone, when you went on his site, you knew that he's going to be on your case, but he run the big jobs.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
When he ran left bank, you know what I mean? From that, I've said before on this show, that that was my first experience, like a big site, big scaffolding site. And, it run like clockwork, always really fair.
There's no better.
Yeah.
John.
Oh yeah. Management skills and all the rest of it, just people skills. You knew where the line was.
People skills.
I don't know. It's weird because sometimes you have to tell uncomfortable truths to people to get the best out of them.
I think because John, because of his age, he was brought up.
We said before that 7 brothers, was it?
And the time he was scaffolding, so it was a lot different in the 80s and 90s when I started. Obviously, John was still in it. When I seen John, he must have been late 20s when I started in school.
Yeah.
And then obviously I met him. I found out who it was afterwards after I started at SGB. It's John and Desi Lee. And that was the main people at SGB. It was like, Tony Wright, Tony Gilbert, and he was proper scaffolding, good at the job, fantastic. Every job in Manchester at the time, them four, it was them who did it. Yeah,
I always say I always reference John as a bit of a mentor and all the rest of it, but what you just said then, it's just twigged in my mind. With John at the time, he would have been in sort of late 20s, mid 20s, whatever. And I just did thinking in my own mind, probably Steve Findlay was like a protege of John's at the time. And, from a practical perspective, John obviously was running the site, but I'd say the kind of, there's always these analogies between like sport and
we found over the years of meeting different people, everybody that's worked with John has come out a really good scaffolder. Good. We've got two he works with me, Aaron Jackson.
I better stop saying a word with him.
but they've like Steve Findlay.
Yeah.
Williams, Aaron Jackson. They're all top scaffolders.
And as I say, like sometimes sporting analogies and stuff like that, in my mind, I know this is going to, probably everyone else has got their own version of this, but almost like class of 92 sort of thing, because you see, he was the guy running the show, and then the people that have come off the back of that, you've got Pop.
Fagin.
Yeah. Fagin.
Had all the young guns with him.
Yeah.
But they've all turned out.
Yeah, but it's like Pete Daniels, Finners, Steve Williams works for you now. It's really, really good. Yeah. Good scaffolders and top fellas as well. You know what I mean? Who come out of that almost like an academy that there was at Allied at the time.
But that's what it was at the time, in like the 80s and 90s. You had to learn your job properly.
Yeah.
It's a lot different now. It's everyone now's got spanners on them.
Yeah.
No matter what they do.
Yeah.
Layer's a bit easier.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. We'll definitely get into that. One last story about Finger, because it just pops into my mind as well now. Obviously, talking about like people and interpersonal skills and like maybe lack thereof for some of the older heads. Yeah. It's kind of not do as you're told sort of mentality, but there was certainly the message was delivered differently from how younger lads would expect it delivered these days. But I remember I got into a bit of an argument, a bit of a row. Load of lads from another estate had come, sort of running after us and all the rest of it. So I've got in my garden, ran in the shed, tried to grab something to defend myself. It sounds ridiculous now. Anyways, one of them jumps over the fence, smashed the bottle into the back of my head, and, all the windows went through and everything, like really bad. But at the time, I was like, young lad, ducking and diving. I was late a lot because I was out drinking with my mates and all the rest of it. Just typical young lad stuff that a lot of them, almost felt bad telling people off, later years. Cause you think I've done it all myself anyway. But John had been warning me, John Savage. He was like, any more of this and you're back to the yard. And that was like fucking ultimate punishment. That it's like, you're going back to the yard. I was like, oh no.
With a rusty fitting.
Yeah, I can't go back to the yard. You know what I mean? Even just for the embarrassment of like, because it happened, I remember when I was in the yard for Allied, same sort of story as you. I was there for a good few months before I got to go out on site. And you kind of got your turn. Well, some people got the turn and then they were back the next week. And it was like a bit like, I don't know, it was like a little orphanage or something like that. Like, oh, nobody want you. And you were back in the yard and whatnot. So the embarrassment and just, I wanted to be on site. Do you know what I mean? I enjoyed it. Just getting there in the morning and turning in not drunk was, for most young lads, it's similar. But anyway, after this incident had happened in the garden, at the hospital all night, stitches in the head and all the rest of it, gets into work late the next day. And this was like my final warning. John's gone like that, back to the yard. I was like, no. He's like, oh, I fucking told you, back to the yard. That's it. I'm done with you. No, he just turned around. I was like begging for it. I just went, I got bottled last night. And he was like, what? So I was like, yeah, all these lads jumped over the bottom of me and all the rest of me. All my windows went through. He went, come here. Grabbed all the back of my head, looked at the back of my head, had this big load of sticks in the back of my head. He went, fucking bastards. Straight away, he was back on my side again. He was like, get yourself out on site. He said, go and work with such and such. He'd be like, so there was that element to him as well. He could look after people.
He was a decent lad, yeah.
I think he's
a bastard.
Yeah. You just had to get on the right. If you got on the right side of him, he looked after you.
I've known him for years, so I was used to it.
Yeah. So that was SGB.
So then.
But then obviously I've met John at Allied, and then Allied was part of your kind of.
Yeah, I left SGB, went to Palmer's early days. So again, great fellas there. Ian Caulfield was there as a subby.
I was with Ian yesterday, actually. Not yesterday, the day before.
He was a subby. Him with Dave Bethel and Jamie Robertson. They was like subby gang. And
Jamie Robertson, who later.
He's the engineer now for London.
Yeah, he's left after years and years and years. He's gone to a.
And they was different grade for them. They was something else. When you watch them putting jobs up, it was just because Ian's he's ahead of his time, isn't he? Even in the 90s, he was just like, some of the stuff he was doing. And Paul's the same now, isn't he?
I hear that off a lot of people. Like when you say a bit of a pioneer.
Yeah.
We were talking just a few minutes ago, weren't we, about hoists and powered access and things like that. He was like
he created like winches with the bonds and stuff like that for pulling beams across. And
the V-barrel. What an innovation the V-barrel was.
We bought them, we bought them off him, fantastic.
Yeah.
People should buy them.
Yeah, people should buy them. And exclusive distributor of those is Leeches. So Leeches, if you want to sponsor us.
So he was, again, so there was decent people about. So I've always worked around good lads.
Yeah.
And I moved about a bit. Then, like I said, I got out of scaffolding then. Become a bricklayer. Okay, odd carrier. Went to college. Got me a City and Girls in bricklaying.
Did you do it at Georgetown? Because there was a college there for years, wasn't there? Ashton.
Night school, yeah.
Right.
So started, and I worked then for probably 6 years, different house builders, rolling bases and small builders. And it was okay. And then I started getting bored with that. And then, like I say, a friend phoned me back up and said, do you want to come to this little company that's been set up? decent, good money in that. So I ended up back there, and I had injured my back.
They
brought me into the office because there wasn't really a scaffolding background, more asbestos company. So they brought me into the office, and that's where my management started then from there. Did a few years there, moved about a bit. I ended up back at OSS, Oldham Scaffolding, as a manager, but I struggled on my own. I wasn't a manager.
Yeah.
It was hard trying to win the work and run everything.
Yeah. Weird, isn't it? Because
it's difficult. You think you can do it, but there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. And when you're on your own.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Hard, yeah.
I mean, I know from starting a business and stuff like that, you're wearing a lot of hats, aren't you?
Yeah.
Your business development manager, you got to keep the leads going back and forth. And I mean, now I guess it's probably easier than it was back then because you have things like WhatsApp and, emails and Teams meetings and stuff like that. There's constant contact, isn't there? But I guess back in the day.
When you're on your own, it's hard.
Yeah.
So then I heard that Allied was looking for contracts managers. So I knew Paul Smith, obviously from SGV days. Phoned Paul up. I spoke to Ian File at the time. I used to deal with Ian.
Oh yeah, I know Ian. Ian very well. He used to be the boss.
It was a conversation with him, and I spoke to Ian and I said, listen, there's a job come up at Allied.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling at this place. And he said, best thing you'll ever do is go to Allied because you'll learn it. They've got different jobs, bigger jobs, and they've got the right manager in place, which was obviously James Briley and Paul Smith at the time. So I started there in 2007. And then 10 years there, then working on some great jobs. Yeah. Over the 10 years, learned a lot of management and dealing with people and dealing with lads and dealing with bigger contractors.
Yeah.
Like the Langer Rock and people like that.
Yeah. Tier 1.
Yeah, Tier 1,
Yeah.
And then obviously that kind of came to the end of 2017 for 10 years. James left. He had his reasons to leave. I think it was just changing. I think they brought people in.
Right.
They weren't scaffolders. They didn't know what it was about.
Yeah.
And kind of, a lot of people was leaving. James, I think, had it in mind what he was going to do. And then...
To continue that sort of sporting analogy, do you think that James was almost like the David Gill to Savages and all the rest of them, Fergie sort of, he was the sort of man upstairs. He
run it, yeah.
It was.
But everyone you met, and afterwards, it's people like, well, I thought you owned it.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. He just run it. And he run it well. And then, like I say, towards the end, it was a shame it went the way it did. But once he left, I couldn't stay around because
it was just a different company.
Yeah, it's kind of a mentor, and I respect James a lot because he's not a scaffolder. He'll admit that, but he's a businessman and a very good businessman.
Mm.
And that's
and I think it's not just the business aspect of it either, is it? It's that when we were speaking before, and I know it's a fucking massive buzzword at the minute, but culture, company culture, and it seems to come from James. Well, I can only imagine so because, as I was saying before, I've probably not been at many. I don't think I've been at another scaffolding company like that since them old Allied days where there was a real sort of structure in place. You knew who the next person was to speak to. Yeah. Everybody in the team felt valued, I thought.
Yeah, towards the end, it wasn't.
When I was there, like even I remember Christmas, we'd be up at the yard in Oldham and it'd be like, right, labourers. And we were like the first on the list. So we're all like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Can't remember, it was 50 or 100 quid or something like that. But it was, to us, it was like, wow. Yeah. And it probably just wasn't the money either. It was like, you felt valued. Yeah, it's like the labourers, you're all getting a bit of a turkey for doing the business. You're like, well, fair play. Yeah. Not really seeing it anywhere else. No. Sort of since.
Until Rose.
And so, it probably stands to reason that it must be, something that James has brought into the business.
Spread into us, we know to look after people. Look after the lads, the customers. And that's why, obviously, he had his reasons to leave. I think he knew what he wanted to do with setting up Rose. And then, obviously, I'd contacted him. So I wanted to go with him because I knew, we would be a success.
Yeah.
And in the first week when we got there, and we had a new yard, no kit, one wagon. There's 4 of us, me, James, and office manager Kelly and Stan. All right, what do we do now? So we better put an order in.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah, so the first order went in, £250,000, and it started arriving.
Straight to Layher, though.
Straight to Layher.
Yeah. What was the thinking behind that?
So James has got a really good relationship with Sean Pike and the Layher family. We've got days been in the Middle East and stuff like that, taking them out there. So, yeah, I think that was always his thinking of 100% Layher.
Yeah.
I don't even think we considered another system, metrics or whatever's out there. It was always going to be Layher.
Yeah.
Because we could see what they do.
It's not just the thing, is it? It's obviously the product innovation. So you've got other sort of similar systems and stuff, but it's not just the product innovation. It's and the range of parts and all the rest of the range of kit. It's that support that you get from
the support we got from Layher at the start was fantastic. From Sean Pike, Heath up at Egbert.
He's a great bloke, Heath. Got a lot of time from him. He's with Acorn now, isn't he? They've inherited a very, very capable,
really nice fella
guy there. Yeah,
but so all of them, obviously, Sean, the money side of it, with setting up as how we purchase stuff and things like that was fantastic. Everything about him, the help that we got from Layher, who was going up to Layher, spending days up there, just building scaffolds, just playing with their kit.
Yeah.
Allowed us to do that. And then, like I say, we invested then with them. It was only going to be them because of, like I say, the support and the products and stuff like that. So we purchased the first kit and then, so it's all sat in the yard.
So it's 250 grand worth of Layher.
Yeah, straight away, yeah. Obviously James and brother Charles put money into the business. We had working capital. It's got to be paid for this kit, so we've got to get a job in. And the first customer to give us a job was Emmanuel Whittaker.
Right.
It was a little pointing job in Rochdale. It wasn't worth a great deal of money, but it was a start. We couldn't, obviously, we wouldn't go near the tier one because we had obviously legal stuff with Allied. So we stayed away from them. You couldn't go near them anyway because you had to be NASC.
Yeah.
So there was no worry of us just touching that because we couldn't.
Yeah.
So we had to go and find our own customer. And that's what James did. He just went out and he grafted and he found new customers and drummed up new customer base.
See, I've never even thought of it like that because I think when you hear that somebody in a really senior position within a business has gone there, you hear this kind of old, oh yeah, he's just gone, he's taken all the work and taken all the men. You hear that kind of thing.
You can't.
And then I know because I've got a lot of small company friends, you know what I mean? Like I owned or was part of a small scaffolding business and, other scaffolding companies around a similar size to us. And there's almost this air of like, there's so many myths that, are floating around the small business, side of scaffolding. And it's like, oh, it's all right for him because, he's just going to take all those customers. And for what you've just said there, you can't just, from a legal perspective, you can't just go, I'm sure there's exclusivity and, non-disclosure, all sorts of things in place when you leave a business, when you're at that high level. But also the fact that you're new, you're upside, you don't have the accreditations.
That's what he did. He just went out and he found the work and he found the customers. I'm still working for them customers today. We have repeat business, which is, that's critical.
Yeah.
To us and to any business really.
Yeah.
But that's what he did. He went out and found all the new clients. They'd never worked with us before, obviously, because it was brand new. Obviously, they'd heard of us, of who he was, because of the Allied days. And we started off just touting and just, we was building some scaffolds in the yards to show people. We had nothing else to do.
Yeah. It's funny.
So we're building like demos and things like that in the yard and inviting people down. This is a Layher system and this is what you can do. And that kind of won things over. Yeah.
Again, I can't remember who was saying this to the other day, but with the Layher and all the rest of it, you can do all the VR walk through the scaffold. You say, right, this is what we're going to build for you. And, here you go, put this headset on. Yeah. You're on the first lift now and you can walk around and all the rest of it. And as much as it is, it's a gimmick because, like, really, there's not a lot they can do or tell with that information.
No, I think the bigger companies, they like all that, the BIM. It's like the BIM model.
Yeah, like but, I guess it all goes back to like CDM and stuff like that. And there's massive emphasis of, we design out risks at the planning phase. We make sure that everything is sort of safe and legit. And before we kind of put boots on the ground. And with that, with the BIM stuff, you can physically walk around the scaffold and maybe pick up on things.
The VR is fantastic.
It's good, isn't it? It's a good piece of kit.
A bit scary when you can shoot up guys to the top lift. You don't know where you are.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah. That's a Layher again with the advanced, the forward thinking, aren't they?
Yeah. But it's the other side of what you said was like you bring your people in, you're just doing like display scaffolds in the yard, just like this is what we could do. Not a lot of companies utilise that free time that you get at the beginning.
Oh yeah, because we had a lot of free time.
You do.
So we was going out. Obviously, we had no staff, scaffolders, for the first couple of weeks. So we was going out, me and James and Stan, and we'd go out and we'd build the jobs, and we'd come back and load the wagon and sort the gear out. And for the following day, and then slowly we started getting lads in. So then we still had no yard staff. So we was doing that. So we'd go out with the wagons, and James would be in the yard in between pricing, and he'd be loading the wagons and getting stock ready. So, and that was what it was like early days, but we knew obviously that's where we wanted to take it. And
do you think you could have done that with tube and fitting?
You can do it with tube and fitting, yeah.
In the same model, or do you reckon it would have been?
No, because the model Layher was based on, or Rose was based on the productivity.
Yeah.
That's why we chose Layher.
As in like the reduction of the overhead with
because obviously there's a skill shortage, scaffolders.
Yeah.
So tube and fit scaffolders now, they're kind of not dying out, but there's a skill shortage of everything. And we just thought that production wise Layher it's 50% quicker. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You can put the fastest tube and fit scaffolder against an average Layher scaffolder and he'll beat you because of the speed of it.
It's modular, isn't it?
Yes, because the components, So that's obviously helps us with program things when we're selling to the customers, and that's what they like, don't they like? A bit of speed, as long as it's safe, we can do that, we can achieve it. So that's why that's obviously one of the biggest reasons that we showed it, because we know we can get the scaffolds built quicker.
Yeah. And his biggest overheads, I mean, we were speaking a couple of minutes ago, weren't we, about the impact that coronavirus pandemic had on the business. And, a lot of these, companies, I mean, you're a new company. I mean, there are established companies that would have been, but for a new company,
it was worrying.
Yeah, you're still in that sort of growth phase.
I think it was 2 or 3 years in, I think there was, and we purchased probably best part of £3 million of Layher then. Yeah. I still got to be paid for. It wasn't paid off. And obviously we had overhead, staff, yards.
But less, this kind of the point I was making, like there's probably less, overheads, and like you can perhaps not afford, but that element of your business, at least you're not having to worry about.
When it came in, I think we had probably about 30 odd scaffolders.
Right.
And then obviously yard staff.
Oh, so there was quite a lot of people
to. It was quite a decent size, yeah. We obviously, James had done a business plan of growth, and it was flying. It was far exceeding it. And then obviously pandemic came about, and it just absolutely destroyed everybody.
Yeah.
It took us probably a couple of months to start getting back in, and
because before the furlough scheme was announced, it's like, I don't know what you're going to do. I remember
there was honest conversation between me and James, and what we're going to do. We've got all these staff, and they rely on us and suppliers, and obviously James himself has sunk a lot of money into it. It was like, what would you do? Yeah,
nobody's business plan as rock solid and shining and brilliant as most, I'm sure James's would have been.
Yeah.
Nobody's business plan included a global pandemic, did it?
Yeah, the world shutting down now. So it was worrying. And obviously when the furlough got announced, that was like a big sigh of relief. At least we can pay the lads. And then obviously a couple of loan and sea bills and things like that.
Yeah.
Because you needed it. You needed some capital.
Yeah.
Because there was no money coming in.
And it's, for businesses that did it in the right way, without it, who knows what the outcome could have been.
Unfortunately, like everything, it gets abused.
Yeah, absolutely.
I imagine it has.
Oh, yeah. There's so many companies out there that for a fact they've abused the sea bills and probably the R&D as well.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of companies out there that have, and there's so many different things go around. People say, oh, you can do this, you can do that. And we as a business, the previous business, we were always we weren't eligible for any of it, which I think did us a favour, because unfortunately you kind of then in a situation, well, you definitely think, well, if they're doing it, then they've got a competitive advantage, so we better do it, and you get a lot along for the bandwagon. But the fact is, we weren't eligible for it.
With R&D, I think with Layher.
You guys were, but I mean, if we'd have made ourselves eligible for it, I reckon there's a lot of companies out there that made themselves quote unquote eligible for it, and they're going to get a bit of a
don't bother with that, the R&D and stuff like that. Because Layher, if you've got an idea, you can go to Layher and say, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
And you can mock something up.
Yeah. A friend of mine's actually just done something similar, although I think he did it himself. Have you seen the big job? It's Alan Regan. He owns, Mr. Sky, MR Safe
Oh,
Deck.
right, yeah.
They've just done the M62 River
Oh,
News
yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
crossing, so big bird cage underneath,
Cool.
all freestanding. Yeah, cool. They're doing the inspections on there. I forget what I was going to say about it now, actually, but, yeah, he's innovated, he's innovated this, like a guttering system that goes into the rosettes, because what they're doing is it's like hydro blasting.
Right.
But obviously that's going to produce a lot of water, and they don't want the water in the scaffold because the scaffold's matted out with this, plastic membrane. Yeah. So there's these gutters, like literally gutters and downspouts attached to the rosettes of the scaffold.
I'll say anything like that, if you come up with anything, you put a Layher.
Oh, they'll be in the next magazine. They'll be in the next brochure, I reckon.
They'll look at it. I think Sean's been involved with that with it.
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, while I've got you, because you can maybe give this a plug. Am I right in thinking that you guys developed a component for like the window?
It wasn't us, no.
Wasn't it? Right.
I'd love to say it
disappointing.
Wasn't us, somebody, it was another company, another Layher company.
Right.
From up Bolton way.
Right.
That's a great product.
And that's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Because obviously, with tube and fit, like I said, we do a lot of house building. So in the windows and things like that, you need to get the scaffold to put up to the internal bird cage or the trad deck or whatever it would be. So you tube and fit, send your trannies through, put a board on it, clip it on. Great. In Layher, there was a system that you could do that we used to do, and it wasn't very good. It was causing a bit of a trip hazard and things like that. And then this product came out that someone had come up with, and it's just 2 bolts, it's like a bracket onto a standard, done. And it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's great. I
guess that's the advantage when you mentioned before, like Layher family. And it is, because obviously the scaffolding was, we ended up going to Letchworth and going to one of the days. I've met a couple of your lads down there, Jack.
Yeah, the last one.
Yeah. So they were there and did put on a great, show for everyone. It was when they were launching the Twix Beam. Yeah. And it was like, it's strange because you think all these people here, essentially, they're all competitors.
Yeah.
They're all kind of vying for the same work, but everyone's just all together and kind of, someone's innovated a product. Yeah. You're now benefiting from that product.
Yeah, it's a great product. You can't knock him for it. Like I said before, different companies have what they do well at. There's local companies to us, they do tower blocks. Great. And they do a nice job of it. That's their thing. There's another company that does the aircraft stuff. We don't touch it. We don't have the part. We could buy the parts if we wanted to, but we don't have it. What we do, we do a lot of house building and a lot of time at homes, and we do that well. So stick to what you know. Don't get involved in.
Yeah. But at the same time, you do have to diversify a little bit.
The main thing for us is kit.
Yeah.
The kit keeps moving. It's paying for itself. That's the biggest thing. You've got to pay the kit off. Making the money. We do well. We've got a good turnover. It's there to see. But it pays everything off. It's paying for the company. We don't take out the business. We don't drive fancy cars. I was saying before about some of the scaffolding business. The NAC is like Carrington's training ground. Fancy cars. But if that's what you want to do, then great.
Yeah, it is. But like you say, I think maybe it's a northern thing. I don't know. But like up this neck of the woods, it's kind of. I'm sure there are other people like this in other parts of the country, but there's quite a community. I don't want to call it socialist, but there's quite a community sort of feel to the way we do things in this part of the world. And like, for one thing, as a business, like, profit's not a dirty word. That's what you're in business for. You're there to make profit. And what you do with those profits, like you say, it's entirely up to you. And in the creation of those profits, you've created jobs. Those jobs support other local businesses. The buzzword at the minute, social value. Those people buy houses and get on the property ladder. And it does support everything. It's like the rising tide lifting all the boats. Yeah. And I do think there's a lot of utility in that. But then the other side of it is some people are, capitalists for capitalist's sake. They want money for money's sake. And then they want to buy the cars, which, I'm not, like you said, not to tell anyone how to spend the money. But for you as an operations director, that money that's taken out of the business, you're then left with the fish and loaves that you have to divvy up.
I think that's the
less the fucking Aston Martin. Do you know what I mean?
I say that's the good thing about James. He's not like he's all about the business, about making money for the business. That's how it should be.
Yeah,
that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
and that's what he does. He drives that. That's why he's brought the right people in, got the right team in the office, commercially, business development, contracts managers, but yard, everybody.
It's a team, isn't it?
For a reason, because they do a good job.
Yeah.
So we recognise that, and that's obviously.
From a training aspect, talking about, bringing people into the business and all the rest of it. Is it difficult to, because there's so many different methods and areas of gaining qualification now within the scaffolding industry.
I think with the Layher, obviously because we're 100% Layher, we don't have tube and fit. It's hard to get government funding for a Layher apprentice. They prefer the tube and fit, and it's they tried to get it organised with the NASC, and the NASC pay grants and CITB pay grants, but actual apprenticeship for Layher is not. It doesn't exist. I may be wrong now, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So everyone gets trained up now as go to Simeon or wherever they go. Part 1 Layher, Part 2 Layher.
Yeah.
Everything's so the apprentices now is kind of hard. We still class the lads as apprentices, but they've done the training, because it does cost a lot of money when we send them for the apprenticeship, because it's 2-week foundation.
Yeah, well, it's not just that easy; it's the impact of the business as well, isn't it? Because, like you say, it's a 2-year program. Was it 11 weeks or so in college?
It's a long time. Obviously, wages and.
Well, while they're there, they're not anywhere else, are they?
No, so they're losing. The business is losing while they're away because of the labourers and things like that. We've got to replace that lad off the site. So it does impact the business quite a bit when you're getting nothing back. Like I say, it's focused on tube and fit. It does need looking at.
Yeah, I'd say so, because at the end of the day, for companies like yourselves, there's a couple of other companies similar that we mentioned earlier on. If you're 100% Layher, kind of doesn't benefit you, does it? Same with it. I mean, it sort of applies as well to a few of my friends who own companies, and all they do is staircases. Pick your manufacturer, but most people outside the industry would call them Mackie staircases. But they do a system staircase, and they'll build temporary edge protection, and they'll install safety nets. And certain sites are saying, well, if you're installing that staircase and the handrails and all this stuff, we want to see, we want to see scissors cards. And it's like, well. It's like we're only doing this very isolated sort of task. And I believe that that kind of area of work is encompassed within the facet training sort of framework. So but then it gets to a case of like, well, what is it we need? Does there perhaps need to be another method of qualification or whatever, just for modular scaffolding?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, something needs to change, definitely. Yeah. I know that they've done it with the events now, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's another.
That wasn't Cardiff, was it?
It wasn't.
I think that was just.
Yeah, well, massively unregulated. Should I? I could tell stories anyway.
We went to Etihad, and it was a concert about to begin, Robbie Williams, something like that. And they was building the stage.
You don't strike me as a Robbie Williams.
I was waiting for him to come on. There was, and they were building the stage, and he's just looking at him. Obviously, we was working for Lang York, and all our lads have full PPE, everything.
Yeah.
You look down on the pitch, and it's like, how are they getting away with it?
Yeah, dreadlocks and flip-flops.
Just, shorts on and trainers and clambering about everywhere.
Yeah.
So that needed to change.
Oh, it did, massively. And it's a funny one, because you hear the negatives more than you hear they're the voices that you hear first, the negative voices around it. And, sometimes, unfortunately, in health and safety and in construction and in a lot of environments, things change because something bad happens. His Aberfran one, that was the sort of the birth of the Health and Safety at Work Act, was the mining collapse in Aberfran. So, and there are fucking multiple different sort of versions of that story where something bad happens and then something changes. And all I was hearing, because I've got friends who own and work at events companies and all the rest of it, and what I was hearing from a lot of them was, this card scheme, it's bullshit, it's just money, blah, blah. What's the problem? Nothing's collapsed. I mean, there have been stages to collapse, for a start, but for another thing, do we have to wait for something to go wrong? Do we have to wait till Glastonbury's happening and fucking the main stage comes crashing down on top of a lot of people? Do we have to wait till, somebody's erecting one of those structures and they come off? I say, I don't want to mention any names or where this was, but I was once I was once, asked to conduct an audit on a site where a stage was being erected, and the safe system of work, I'm going to give it the old inverted commas now, the safe system of work was a cherry picker on one side, a cherry picker on the other side of the stage, a piece of rope, God knows what type of rope, but a piece of rope between the two cherry pickers, and the guy was just walking up and down. It clipped on with a fall arrest lanyard, Not even like a nursery reel, nothing.
Oh,
yeah, that was his like safe system of work. I was like,
I can believe it.
Jesus, you know what I mean?
We've seen that day on the yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah, so it's like, do we really have to wait till someone falls over?
Brown's gone there now, so obviously
I think so.
He'll change at Acorn.
Yeah.
It has to do. I'm sure it will.
Wasn't Acorn, by the way.
Wasn't Acorn at Etihad.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think it probably speaks for itself because they're obviously on board with this founding of this new scheme and this new competence sort of framework for gaining competence in that industry. I'll try to remember what it was called. Something like the Temporary Demountable Structure Association or scheme or something to do with temporary demountable, i.e. stages. And I know they're a big driver in that. You know, and rightly so. You know, why wait till somebody's injured or killed?
Yeah.
Before we start making changes in the industry.
I think when you go back to Layher, the safety side of Layher.
Yeah.
When you're building it correctly.
Yeah.
It's so easy to build safely. Again, and that's another thing why we chose Layher. Because tube and fit, you can run 21s about and stuff like that. And I know they're a bit different now because they're thin walled and different from the older days.
Well, Layher's even made that innovation. There's 2.7 millimeters on the light gauge stuff.
All our ledgers and braces and trannies and everything else is lightweight. I
don't think people realise the other side of that, of it being lightweight. I don't think people realise the reduction in emissions as well. Because you've got a car that, you know, if you're driving that from Chadderton to Bristol or somewhere like that, because, you know, you're working there for whatever reason, you're using less diesel.
Yeah. I think that was another innovation that come from a company, I think come from Linden's, the lightweight standards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what they started making for them initially on Manchester Airport.
Yeah, so they did different grades of steel, like the old DN39 Type 4 was like a 4mm, and then I think it's fucking BSEM 10219 I'm showing off now. it's a 3.2 millimeter wall depth, and that's obviously it's the light gauge, higher tensile strength, really. And then obviously Layher have seen that innovation and gone, oh, we could do this with our stuff. I think theirs was 3.2 anyway. Now it's 2.7 mil.
Because we've gone down obviously we've purchased what we've purchased. And that's what we stick to now. So we buy standards and things like that. We buy the normal, not the lightweight. Everything else, ledgers, everything else is lightweight. The only thing we don't buy is the standards, which probably maybe we need to look at in the future.
Yeah, they can tell the difference. 4-meter standard. Yeah. You can definitely tell the difference.
We've got a few decks, lightweight decks.
Yeah.
When I went over to Eisenbach, I think we started making them. It was like a big secret.
Yeah, we said that. You were telling me this. I found that fascinating.
It was all hoarded off and you couldn't go near it.
Yeah.
And then Sean told us afterwards. That's the reason.
It's like some sort of James Bond shit, innit?
Charlie the Chocolate Factory, innit?
Yeah, not the like.
We can't tell anybody.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's a bit like unfortunately, and Sean, I'm going to have to rectify this, my mate. Media visit. I've worked in Germany for a while. But that we were in, West Germany was in, Paderborn. So I went all right around West Germany, Paderborn, Frankfurt, Hamburg, Dortmund, working all around there and going out, and great place to work, brilliant culture and all the rest of it. I really enjoyed it over there, but I've always wanted to go to.
It was interesting. When you see it, see how it's done, and
because everything's done on site there, isn't it? It's all hot dip galvanized.
Yeah, you take you around it all. It starts at the top and you come around. It's all the raw material, it's all rusty, and it comes through the factory. But by the time it gets to the other side of the factory, it's gleaming, brand new gear. Fantastic setup. Yeah. And you meet the family, and
it's family owned, didn't it? It was
George Layher's that come and meet.
Founded by Wilhelm Layher, wasn't it?
Like in ladders or something. In the wall.
Yeah, 1945. Yeah.
There's two factories. There's Layher, all steel, and then there's another factory down the road that makes all the toe boards and aluminium stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of me little.
You do a tour of it.
Me claim to fame. I can order a full gear list in German. Yeah, can't chat a bird up in English or German. But I can all the components, because like that's obviously the stuff you're going to learn first. But we was using something they call it blitzgerust over there, but it's speedy scaffolding. Yeah. The frame stuff. Yeah. So it's not like the all round stuff that we use. Yeah. It's all these sort of frames. Yeah. Like I don't think they were. I've seen them over here.
Yeah, they're over here. Yeah.
I've seen them used over there. I think from a safe system of work point of view, I think the all around stuff's
the frame system, because it's 2 meters, isn't it? It's 2 meter standard with the transom on it.
It's almost like a door frame.
So if you don't you don't have the advanced guardrail system that you have to put on the outside, how do you get the handrails on?
Yeah. And I've always feel with them systems, you're doing the job twice.
Yeah.
You're putting the handrail in, and then you have to go and put the permanent handrail in after you put the temporary in, and then it's moving up. And then how much of that stuff have you got? Whereas with all round, it's there, isn't it?
Done and dusted, yeah. But yeah, so then eventually, like I say, that went down and you've seen the Twix beam, what they brought out the year before. There was the Flex beam, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We bought them, we purchased them.
Yeah.
We was trying to get a job over the line, so we would be the first in the UK to have it. But somebody, I think it was Balfinger, they had it first.
All right. With the Flex beam.
Yeah. And I think Ross Brown had it as well.
Yeah, he did fourth bridge with it. They beats everything.
Beats us to everything, yeah. Does some fantastic work.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably the third time I've told you this, but I've obviously not told you on air yet, so I will. When we were starting out the scaffolding business, before I left it, I went down, it was up really early on, probably in the first month, I'd say, of us setting up. I got in touch with Sean because I obviously had a relationship there from when I was at Simeon. I'd almost had a bleeding residency down in Letchworth. I was teaching there every other week or whatever, SSP test course. It was when
Joe.
Yeah, Joe actually did his shadowing with me to deliver those courses, but I was there constantly. I think it was when PhD were doing Big Ben.
Right, yeah.
So a lot of their lads were coming in. It was just like a bleeding every week, more and more and more. And I said to Sean when we first sat down, or when we set the scaffolding business up, I was like, there are companies out there that I want to kind of emulate. I said, I still had this thing that I wanted to do training as well as scaffolding, and I thought I was going to have these two businesses. Obviously that never happened, and now I've got the scaffolding business and I've got the training business and they've got the consultancy business and they've got the scaffolding business, and it's separated. So I had this idea that, maybe it was like a little miniature sort of Brogans. But then the companies that I'd mentioned that we would like to emulate from a scaffolding perspective, or purely scaffolding perspective, were yourselves, because you went 100% all in with the Layher and iScaff as well. Because I just think, sometimes with this stuff, you can't be half pregnant, can you? You've got to...
Yeah, you're all in, yeah. So when we were at other places, you had some Layher, but didn't have the parts and like the toe boards, and just certain things make a difference. When we was putting jobs up with Layher last time in the other place, we had no toe boards, so you had to put 13 foots on and 5 foots.
Yeah, then you're dead men everywhere.
And the time it takes. So when we was trying to recruit lads in the early days, it was like, I don't really fancy it because I remember.
I bet you those lads, what I think it's similar to? I think it's similar to like the impact wrench. Everybody, when the impact wrench came into scaffolding, were like, no, bollocks that. Not quicker. No. Quicker for stripping, not quicker for erecting. And I remember being one of those voices. I remember saying, you pellets with your drills and all the rest of it, how wrong I was. Do you know what I mean? Because they're everywhere. But yeah, I think it's a similar sort of thing. Those voices, you give him one of the impact wrenches for a day. I remember it happening to me. And the battery ran out. I was like, we've got another battery for that. He went, why, you don't want one, do you? Shit, aren't they? I was like, they're not, they're brilliant. I think they are the same. I think you take a few of your lads, maybe not yours, or possibly yours or some other companies or whatever, and give them a good run out of it. Yeah. And then say, right, who fancies going back on tube and fitting?
A lot of our lads,
I don't think they'd
a lot of tube and fit lads have come to us from tube and fit companies. They'll never go back to tube and fit because of Layher. We've had a lad leave us last year and he came back and he phoned me up. He'd been working away and he came back and he felt embarrassed to phone me up. So he went working for another company and he phoned me up and he said, can I come back? I said, yeah, of course you can. What's up? He said, I've just come to a job in town. He said, a wagon's pulled up. Just full along, got a march on and he said, I ain't doing this. I said, yeah, give you a week's notice.
It is how it is.
Yeah, I'm millions of fittings.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another one. That's another one that fucking tickles me. It's mint if you've got all the components. I said, yeah. But like, soul's tube and fitting is great if you've got all the components, but if you've got a load of clips and a load of fives, you're knackered, aren't you? And at the same time, they say, there's too many components. How many doubles are in that bin? Do you know what I mean? I've got like a pallet, I've got a storage standards in. And,
really good tube and fit. And they've not lasted. They just, I can't get my head around it. It's not good. And it's like that. It's because they just want to rush and get stuck in because I know who they are. And we brought them in for a reason because I thought they'd be good lads and they just couldn't get their head around it.
Yeah.
Couldn't get their head around spending that extra half an hour on that kicker lift, setting it all out.
Yeah.
After that, that's the way you go, innit?
Yeah. I remember this job that we just recently, that we did a base out, and like, someone had said, right, well, I'm going to give you 10, you know, it weren't 10, I'm lying. It was like five men or something to base this job out. It's tiny. And I was like, nah. He's like, well, it needs to go up. I'm like, well, I get that it needs to go up, but all that's going to happen is I'm going to end up getting pissed off. Like, if I'm going there, I'll go there and like take a back seat and like sort of put the lads in the right direction of what to do. But if I'm going there to base out and get the base right, which, like you said, once that base is in and perfect, it's copy and paste, isn't it? Yeah. Just rinse and repeat. You're doing the same thing.
People that say to you, like, systems only good for square buildings. Just stop answering them in the end, because it's not true. If you've got the right parts, you can do anything.
Yeah, and that's the best. Yeah, but if you've got the parts.
We do a lot of house building. And that's where we put the young lads on housing sites, because if you can base an house out, I know it sounds simple. When you see some of the work that some people are doing, massive jobs. Great, fill your boots.
I think they're easier.
But if you learn, if you can learn on going around an house, different house type, all the ins and outs and porches and garages and bay window and everything, if you can do that right and nice and neat, you can do a tower block, because a tower block's a square box.
Yeah.
So
in a hanger, really.
Some of the young lads say to us, like, I don't know about going on this job, but it's no bigger than it. It's no different than a house. If you can do a house, which is difficult, you can do a box, a tower block or a massive building. Anything.
Yeah, people get sort of maybe.
It's only when you start throwing beams in and things like that where lack experience. But that's where we teach our young lads is they go on building sites. And if they can base houses out.
I think the hardest environment to manage from a compliance perspective. So many moving parts, so many different, that scaffold's got to work for a window fit, it's got to work for a roof, it's got to work for a bricklayer. It's got to work for everybody all at the same time. And, it's so up and down and back and forth, and one scaffold one day could look completely different the next.
Obviously, we can have half decks and different size decks and different size bays, so we can get into any opening or any recess or anything like that. And we can set it off the building, we can set it with half decks, and we can bring it tight, we can do whatever you want. But people don't understand. They just think, it's system.
They don't want to learn to understand. Yeah. Like you say, it's that slowing it down, isn't it?
We've brought in, obviously, we are the first in the UK to bring in a digital apprentice. Young James Harrison is called.
Okay, how's that work?
That was over COVID. That was through Layher and Simeon. He was at Dudley College. He's from Oldham way.
Yeah, but when they did the accreditation at Dudley, I was up there.
So he was part of that college. So we interviewed a couple of people on Teams because it was COVID at the time, and young James came out far better than everybody. He just had something about him, quite clever, and he's come into the office. He's been with us 3 years now. But he came in, knew nothing about scaffolding, didn't know why it was.
Oh, really?
And because he could use a computer, because most young kids can now, he just picked up the CAD immediately.
Right.
Whereas, if I went on it, I wouldn't have a clue. And it's, engineering.
Once
you get your head around it, it's
Simon Hughes mentioned something about this when we was at Let's where you weren't there last time, when it was, when Jack had gone down, but, Simon was there and he'd mentioned something about this, digital apprenticeship.
So we've got him, James. So what he does is he sets up, so any job we do, he'll set up with the help of one of the contract managers. He'll set the job up and then they'll come to us and say, what do you think of this? And he 9 times out of 10, he has it bang on. Considering he's never been a scaffolder, he's really good at it.
That's impressive,
so
isn't it?
We'll set the job out, all the base sizes, and then that produces load lists, so we know what kit's going out. And when it gets to site, if it doesn't quite work and a lad changes it on site, he phones us back up, or he'll phone young James up and say, I've changed this bay, because obviously the load list needs to be changed then. And then he'll amend the drawing, and then that produces everything else then. So
that's smart.
So what we found is when lads going on sites, say you have a lad who'll base a job out, and then someone else will go and put a lift on it or whatever it would be, they would do it different, or something would change, or the kit would be wrong. So there's a sequence. We have a sequence drawing now for every lift. So when somebody goes, someone else, it's not their site, they go on site, they've got a sequence drawing that they work to.
Oh, that's impressive.
Like, say, house types or retirement homes, there's a lot of changes in like floor levels and details and things like that. Yeah. So if somebody goes on and ruins it, the top list knackered, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's that. So the digital apprentice, and he's fantastic. So he produces all the drawings, 3D models, anything you're asking for, he'll produce.
So when they've done that apprenticeship, when they finished it, are they at sort of the level of like a technical draftsman? Not an engineer.
Not an engineer, no. So he needs to do his, is it HNC? Or
Yeah.
whatever it would be.
Yeah, I believe so.
Degree to finish that off.
Is that the plan?
So that's the plan for him, yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So once he does the drawings, we can send them then to an engineer, either to Layher or an engineer at the time, and they'll put the calcs to his drawing. So it saves a lot of time, because engineers and drawings, it's just so busy.
Yeah, I think you need to embrace the technology, don't you? Embrace what's out there. One thing I didn't even think I was going to bring this up, but just with you saying that, it sort of twigged in my mind with the systems and stuff that you have in place. Is someone I really, really, really want to get on the show. And I don't know whether he'd do it or not, because he's a bit of like, doesn't strike me as the type to be too much into the social media and embracing, that side of things. Do you guys use StrikeSoft?
Yeah.
Toby
Cave, yeah.
He's a fucking genius, man.
So we have Toby System StrikeSoft for all our paperwork on site, handovers, everything.
Yeah.
Variations, they work, so all the lads sign up to it on the mobile. So when they're doing a handover, job's complete, take pictures of it, write the description. So most of it's pre-populated, and then sign it. Copy goes to the site. Copy comes to us. That's it, done.
Paperless,
that's totally,
seamless,
because it was
frictionless.
It was done with, his brothers Connect.
Yeah,
London, so
yeah. He was down at Layher last time. What's he called? Oliver.
Ollie,
yeah. Ollie, another top bloke as well.
Yeah, yeah. We've got his lad working. Well, Toby's lad works for us.
Oh, really?
While he's at uni up in Manchester.
Yeah, he said when he came, he sat in this very very studio, but it was an office back at the time. Yeah, he came sat down with the scaffolding business. Yeah, he mentioned his lad was in uni up here, but when he told me his story, I was like, whoa, like this, you don't hear this every day. Because he's like spent his first sort of years working in the city, didn't he, in London? I don't know if you know this or not.
Who, Paddy?
No, Toby.
Right.
Yeah, Toby was like I guess what you call a city banker.
Right.
He worked in the city of London. He was in the banking industry and finance and all the rest. It was Oliver who owned the scaffolding business. And he was helping him out and sort of, I don't know, like, and not even in a financial sort of aspect. He was helping out, like physically getting on the tools and doing a Sunday morning with him and stuff like that. Then ends up developing this system with his knowledge of the financial sector, and that's kind of how Strike came about.
Yeah, so we use it.
I'd love to get him, Toby. I'm going to send you an episode. You've got to come on. You can plug your products, but like the story, he's just like, wow, you don't hear that every day.
Yeah. A lot of people, like all the different companies up here, Connolly's, they have different apps, don't they?
Yeah.
Have a different app. But we just find that one, it's great. The support from Strike, from Toby and his lads in the office.
Yeah.
Any issues, you phone up. Anything you want add into it, you phone them up and you just send
that's it. You can
template for it and they'll get it in there. Any forms not making.
It's worth it, innit? And worth getting like a batch of stuff that you got together. It might be, I don't know, off the top of my head, a toolbox talk template, or, you know what I mean? Some template that you use a lot, maybe a hazards assessment or something or dynamic risk assessment, something like that. Get a load of them together and then just send them to the team. Then they're digitalise them.
We have everything you can think of. We have a form for it. And StrikeSoft they upload it for us and then send us.
That's it. You got to embrace this sort of stuff.
All our system in the office as well, all our wages system, and the pricing system is Strike as well. So yeah, it's a really good product. Yeah,
saves a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
I think this is embracing the system and embracing technology, and it's puts you at the kind of forefront, doesn't it?
I think we're bringing young James in the office, the engineer. He's helped massively. Yeah, because obviously your biggest asset of your business is stock.
Yeah,
and then your lads. Because if you don't have lads, you're not making money.
Yeah,
but to utilise your stock is your biggest asset. So that's why James's role is to produce the drawings. So because we used to do it, and you'd be like, 50 of them and 100. And
throwing shit at a wall, kind of.
And half the gear's left on site, and so that's what we don't have now. There's some sites where it's a bit of gear, a bit of tidying up.
And you've always got to kind of overcook it slightly.
Always do a little bit, But he produces drawings down, so we know the stock levels. And
that's another thing, isn't it?
System,
and
that's all monitored. And
the other thing is as well, it's keeping an eye on the bloody stuff as well, because it ain't cheap, and you want to make sure no one's sort of walking off of it.
I think we spent about $6.5 million now.
I find it hilarious, when people say, you go, when you're starting off on the other day, you probably heard this a lot. I've never put this message out either, but I'm going to. Everyone starts off, you just get a load of stolen kit and all the rest of it. Like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like anyone who's in that sort of game where they're just nicking kit to set up and all the rest of it, never last.
No.
Never last. Because
you get found out.
So get found out, and it's just fucking zero-sum game, isn't it? Because if, like, do you know what stops people nicking gear? You buying stolen gear. Stop buying stolen gear, and they'll have no one to fucking sell it to.
Pitch our gear, I've got to speak to Stan. So.
He's put a picture out, I think it was around Christmas time.
In Dublin,
and Stan's holding a pint of Guinness, and it looks like a fucking can of Coke.
Looks like half pint, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
he's got hands like manhole covers, isn't he? Yeah. That'll be staying where it is then.
Well, that's what I say. Again, it goes back to the team. Stan's in charge of that, so he goes out to site, and he does audits on site, and all the site team do. James, we all do. Everyone goes out and audits. Stan, he's watching the gear constantly. Why is that here? What's he doing with that? You get a wagon there, get it shifted, and that's how it ends. That's how it should be. And everyone's a team. Everyone's working in the right direction, aren't they? No one's arguing.
You just don't.
There's always fallouts.
It's got to be in there. It's one of those environments, isn't it, where tensions flare. It's weird, isn't it?
I think that's what happens when you bring people in who are not from you. We train within everything we do. All our people have come from working for us. So I'm the contracts manager now. Ash Knight, he was one of our main scaffolders, one of our foremen. He's a contracts manager. Steve Williams, obviously, worked with before. He is. Jack Morehouse, business about. He's always worked with us. So I'm the commercial manager. He started as a labourer. So we've always grown from within because it's hard to get people. And when you bring like senior people at management, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
You bring people into a business and they just upset everybody. You upset the lads, you upset the office, and they're generally wankers.
Yeah. And it's a funny one. Yeah. And do you know what? Can't name names, can you? But there's kind of, in the north of England, I'm sure it's the same elsewhere in the country, but there's kind of this merry-go-round of people and like, there's the contracts manager there, and then there's the contracts manager there, and then there's the contracts manager there, and there, and there. And you just think, you've got to stay away from those appointments, haven't you, really? To the best.
How do they not know? Because everyone else knows it's a tosser. No. But there's loads of people out
there. Yeah, it's just a merry-go-round. You're like, oh, he's the contracts manager. I know.
So that's what we try. We actually we grow from within. So the lad, people will come to senior, the lads who part twos now, they'll come through, and eventually they become foremen, and we'll just train them from within.
And like you're saying with the Layher training, it's just unfortunate. There's no, I feel like, there's a limited sort of proper framework for that training to come through, because you can train them quicker, I would say, to be competent and be, still under supervision, but you can train them up, I'd say, quicker. And from a selfish perspective, almost, because rows are probably one of the few that are 100% Layher, certainly in this part of the country. From a selfish point of view, it kind of stops them going elsewhere. Not stops them going elsewhere, but it stops them wanting to go elsewhere, maybe. I
mean, you can, with the ring system, you can move about. So, like, for instance, Connell is, he has a metric, Patak, or whatever it is. And so you can move about. People can come, a lot of people have come from trad to us. Yeah. And they've got metric. So all you need to do with Simeon is toolbox talk.
Yeah, that's right.
And give them all the manufacturing instructions and the hints and tips and just sign them up to that.
Yeah, I think that's something that could do with changing.
Valence.
Yeah, I think that's something that could do with change. I think it's right that should happen. Like you've done a ring lock system, it's another ring lock system. I think it might be a better idea if it was like, you could get the endorsement amended on the back of your card, so it had both.
So it had Layher.
Yeah. So it's just like if someone, let's say,
clients think, you've not got Layher.
Yeah.
We've got a toolbox.
Yeah, and that's it. You've got to convince the customer. You know yourself. We know that that's sufficient. We know that's more than adequate. You've been briefed on the particulars of that manufacturer's sequence of action, safe systems of work, loadings, and all the rest of it. And they know how to erect ring lock systems because they've been on a training course, be it a Layher or a Futuro or Metrics, or the list goes on and on. Sorry for any of the not indoor. Well, I think they're all great. Do you know what I mean? They are, and the list goes on and on and on. But from a customer, they look at that card and they go, well, that says Layher. I've delivered an inbox, toolbox. And straight away, some of them think you're trying to pull the wool. It's like, no, go on CISRS's website. NASC have released a statement that said that, this is sufficient and all the rest of it. You're trying to show them the evidence that what you've done is sufficient. Whereas, I mean, maybe like a half-day addendum course.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Say, right, he's got metrics. Let's put him on a half-day course or whatever, or an online course maybe, to do that. Yeah. Other manufacturers save system of work, etc., and then get it on the card. And then
training is a problem. Apprenticeship's a problem.
Yeah,
getting young lads in. We advertised before Christmas. I think 8 should have come. Yeah. 1 turned up. I've got to be a bricklayer. So getting people in. I think that what Dave Abe's trying to do with the prisoners, ex returning citizens.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
because
I'm there next week actually.
No disrespect to scaffolders, you've got more chance of getting somebody from a prison to work. We went down to the NASC with the forces.
Yeah,
and we spoke to Dave Milliken about it.
Yeah,
and obviously try to get lads in and train them up. Me and Jack went down, and it was really difficult. I found it real difficult, a bit of a waste of time, because the lads who were leaving the forces, they know what they want to do.
Yeah.
And scaffolding ain't it.
Yeah. A lot of them want to do close protection.
And there was like electrical and like coming out of the REMI and things like that. So they knew they didn't want to be a scaffolder.
And there's another good charity called Project Wrecker that do help with ex-servicemen and that. I think and it's construction, to get them into construction roles. I think it's probably more aimed towards high-ranking senior members of the military when they're coming out and getting them into like project management roles, that kind of thing. Not yard labourers.
I think Dave's put us into with some prisons, and I think they've come out and done risk assessments in the yard and things like that. At the minute, we haven't took it any further. We should have had a lad who started. He didn't turn up.
Yeah, and well, this is it. So there's always going to be that, by the way. There's always, you get people on courses, and some of them just want to get out of the cell for a few hours. Some of them, got all the best intentions, and then they come back out, and then for whatever reason, some of them reoffend and go back in. But
Connolly's got a few.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, there seems to be quite a lot of success stories. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of them are staying in sustainable employment.
Not everyone's bad, are they? There's got to be some decent lads, aren't there?
Yeah. I was saying to my little girl, she was like, "What's it like, Dad? Are they got scars down the faces?" And she's only 9. They all got scars down the face, and they all like fucking whatever she's seeing about prison in like cartoons or whatever. I don't know. I said no. I said they're like me. Do you know what I mean? That the people that are on those courses, they're like me. They're like you. Some of them have literally had a row outside the chip shop, and somebody's gone a bit too far with them, and things have escalated, and they've ended up in there, and they just want to put their life back together. And others have made really big mistakes, and they've served the time for those mistakes.
He's quite successful, Dave, isn't he, with it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's meeting the demand. I think that's the challenge, because not only is the prison system on board with it, major stakeholders are really on board with it. The social value aspect of it is huge, because you're getting people back out into society and into sustainable employment. So from the pre-employment aspect of it, it ticks a lot of boxes. And then for a scaffolding business, it's hard to find qualified people. So it's like, and then to find qualified people who've had a bit of experience, it's like, well, I can either grab this guy, I don't know what he's about, what he's like, I can bring him in. I'm going to have to put him in a Cox course. Oh, her, by the way. I had Vicky Welsh on last week. Female scaffolder, I should say him or her.
We've got one in the yard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I should have mentioned that.
Yeah, well, Vicky's coming back. Vicky's coming back to do kind of a part 2, because she's got loads going on at the minute.
Yeah.
So she's coming back and doing a kind of a part 2 episode. Maybe bring the girl in the office, because she's a big advocate for helping get women into scaffolding and construction.
She was our cleaner,
right?
And obviously going into the yard and she'd seen it. She's probably about 30ish, I think she is.
Right.
But she's great. She just fits in, gets stuck in.
Any plans to go out on site, or?
What we've said is, see how you get on. And if you want to, no problem. We'll bring you out on site and we'll train you up.
Yeah.
But it's her choice at the minute.
Yeah. Vicky said she started with System.
Yeah.
And she found it easier to work with, physically.
The only thing that she called Stacey. he's worried about is obviously like topping out things.
Yeah,
like she's not very big.
Yeah,
and obviously it's.
Vicky said the same thing when she came on. She went, the first thing she mentioned was topping out. I think it's like but yeah. So I should say but for this particular course that we're talking about, we're in male prisons at the minute, and I think they will be rolled out in women's prisons soon as well.
Right.
But yeah, it's you bring someone in outside of that, you interview him, you think, he looks all right, bring him in. Then you've got to pay for some training for him and see whether he fits in. He might not take to scaffolding. He might not really, the physical aspect might not be for that person. Whereas,
we tried the apprentices, and that's why we always do we put them in the yard 6 months. So exactly like what I did.
Yeah.
Years ago. So 6 months in the yard, and they're assessed in the yard. Then Stan will keep an eye on them and the yard managers, and just see how they go. Obviously to learn the parts, because there's a lot of parts in Layher, get all the names right. And just see how they work. Are they turning in on time? Are they doing the overtime? Are they keen? And so that's why the 6 months in the yard is crucial.
Yeah.
You can't just, if people come to us with no experience, they all go in the yard.
Yeah.
Everybody, no matter how old they are. And then we'll give them a chance then. But when they get out to site or they've not made it in the yard, then we have to have the hard word with them and just say, look, you're not going to make it.
Yeah. And it's fair.
Everyone comes with the right intention.
You've got to be cruel to be kind, aren't you, sometimes? If it's not for somebody, there's no point in prolonging it for them.
The yard's pretty tough.
Yeah.
It's relentless. No matter what weather, the yard's constant. On site, it's a bit different. You can get out the rain and get off and things like that. But the lads are different on site.
Yeah.
Because, what scaffolders are like. They want the gear, if you're labouring, it's got to be there for them.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get shouted at. So it's a little bit different. So we've got to make sure that they're strong enough to take that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't believe there's a bullying culture. I think there's plenty of piss taking. But I don't think we have. I don't think we have.
And it's I think it's for the company to police. Yeah. And it exists. It definitely exists. I don't think a lot, some of the stuff that goes on, the shouting at the labourer, I don't think that's bullying. You're just trying to, the world can be a cruel place and we shouldn't forget that.
If you can't take that, you're in the wrong game.
Yeah, you're in the wrong game. I think for me, if bullying exists within scaffolding, it's the passive sort of aggressive stance of like trying to undermine somebody, talking amongst, the fishwife sort of thing, talking amongst,
they're known for that, scaffolders, aren't they?
Yeah. He's rubbish him and do you know that kind of thing?
He's on more money than me.
Yeah, that stuff pisses me off because like, you can't, I've always said, if someone shouts at you and you think they're going too far with it, you've got a choice. Yeah. You can either defend yourself, or you can walk away and, you can do whatever, but it's visible and you can see it and you can make a decision. When it's subtle, you can't. And I think that can really get to people because there's nothing there for the flashpoint. So it's just a constant grinding down of somebody's spirit. You know what I mean? I really don't like to see that. And again, like you say, it's down to the business to police it. And I from what I've heard from Rose, it just doesn't sound like there's a culture like that within your business at all.
No. Like I say, there's plenty of piss taking, but it's none of that. It goes on.
It has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It has to be, do you know what I mean? It is a rite of passage.
Even in the office.
Yeah. Well, more so sometimes. It has got to happen, hasn't it? Yeah, but, from the training perspective, these guys who've been in the prison, they've got a card, ticks a box. Yeah. You don't have to put them on the courses. The other thing that you're going to be asked in any job, have you got a qualification and have you got an experience? And they can kind of say yes to both of those things. And then slowly as they're getting ready for release, they can be doing a couple of days and then back and, working for the scaffolding company. You can try them out. They can get a feel for that company. And it ticks a lot of boxes. And like recently, I've been up at Fulham delivering training courses and the lads from Connolly's were there on the part one.
Right.
So they've got the cots in, Berwyn, some of them got it in, Kirkham, a couple have got the card in Thorn Cross. Yeah. So, they've all come from those different places, got the card, gone into a scaffolding company, and now they're progressing to a part one. They'll be a scaffolder probably in the next sort of 12, 18 months.
Yeah.
It's good. It really is
Good luck to him, yeah. I say at the minute we've got 50, just over 50 in the field now.
Really?
60, with the yard, about 60 staff, and then obviously this management team then. So we're pretty big now, yeah.
Yeah.
Doing a nice turnover.
So what probably just to sort of start closing things out, the plan for Rose going forward, because I think I was saying before, it now seems like it's a big established company doing really well. What's the legacy, you know, for the scaffolding industry as a whole? What would you like the legacy of Rose
I think
to be?
To do a good job, you know, a nice job, delivered properly, and to be remembered by it.
Yeah.
You know, all the nursing home, we've got a lot of repeat business, so we must be doing something right.
Yep.
We keep getting used. You know, when we lose a customer for whatever reason, it's quite disappointing. And we have lost customers. You know, they won't use us again or whatever because of arguments. And that's, you know, disappoints us that because we want to keep repeat business and we want to keep people happy. So I think going forward, that's what we want to do now, is just level off, obviously, because you can't keep spending.
Yeah.
There has to be a point where enough's enough.
Yeah.
And the kit pays for itself now and makes it.
And the margins go up as a result of that.
So that's what you want. Yeah. You don't want to just keep going and growing and turnover goes up and up and up. And it's like, and profits are going down. And so I think that's what we're doing now for the future. Just start leveling off and just grow from within, like I say, with the staff, and then just keep things nice and tight, doing nice work. So we've invested heavily with the wagons.
Yeah, you know what? Before, I was going to say we're sort of on the maybe close, but that's something I did want to speak to you about, because we were speaking just a few minutes ago, weren't we, about the clean air tax. And I think it's, you know, we're going to have a conversation. This was my take on it, and it only just in the conversation that we're having. But we were saying about, Chris was saying about, you know, they've upgraded the fleet because of this emissions tax, the clean air tax, and that, you know, I was a part owner of a scaffolding business at the time, and I felt the same thing, that it had been sprung on us a little bit. And like, if you looked and you dug around, you could find evidence that, you know, that this thing was coming, but there was no one really. I don't feel that there was anyone proactively engaging with small businesses. We were lucky in the sense that we didn't upgrade the fleet. We wanted to, but then it's money in it. You have to think about, how we're going to fund that? Are we going to finance it? Would we retrofit the vehicles? Apparently, there was talking about grants for retrofitting vehicles. We were eligible because we were so young as a business. So it was like, really felt like we'd been left high and dry. And as you were saying with your yard in Chadderton, as soon as we turned the keys in those wagons, drove out the yard. Yeah. Use it on Broadway, aren't you?
One left turn for us, and that's us.
Yeah,
we're in it.
Yeah,
because the area that they brought in was ridiculous. So we had to. So we was kind of forced. We needed to anyway. We need to upgrade the vehicles anyway. So we did do. We spent £500,000 on 3 coming next month. Yeah. So that's obviously another again for the future. I think in the office wise, I think we're looking at obviously James's development, the engineering side of it. Yeah. And I think bringing somebody in, another digital apprentice, potentially, to work alongside James, because obviously he's going to have to step up and produce proper drawings and stuff like that.
But that's again, that's a cost saving you can pass on to the customer, really, isn't it? Because you're no longer having to source external engineers or
in-house design.
Yeah.
You kind of get it anyway with Layher. Get a lot of help. There's good designers about India as well. Yeah. But it's just so busy. Yeah. So if you can do it from within, it does help. Lindens do it, don't they?
Yeah, everything's in house. So I think it makes sense. But the point where, because I probably didn't sort of finish this off about the vehicles and that, I was just wondering when we were speaking before we started recording, if it was maybe like a ploy, because I remember you said, well, we upgraded, and I was thinking, well, we were going to upgrade, and like we really couldn't afford to retrofit or upgrade, but we were going to try and fucking make it work by hook or crook. Was going to try and make it work, and I thought, is this some sort of like, do the government have some sort of numbers they have to hit about getting, bad emission vehicles off the road, and by springing this on us, they knew that a load of us would try to upgrade our fleets, and then
kind of panic.
Yeah, we'd knee-jerk upgrade the fleet, and it's like, ha. We'll leave it for a couple of years, so we actually...
It's worked with us.
Bastards. But,
we needed it anyway. We needed
it.
We bought the wagons and we set up, and now they've served the purpose.
And they should reduce your fuel consumption, and you know what I mean? So there's that benefit to it as well, I guess.
We've had them specially built as well, so they're a bit safer. And there's like standing areas on it, so the crane operator can stand safely. And we've put a lot of input into how they're built and what we need for them, so they should be decent when they come.
Yeah, so like I say, finally, is that this legacy for what you would want to leave, how the scaffolding industry should look in the future?
Layher.
Are you getting paid? Is he paying you, Sean, to come on it? Well, you are 100% Layher. It's all authentic Layher as well. So yeah, modern building techniques.
Yeah. The safety side of it now, it's come on massively.
Mm-hmm.
I remember starting in 89 and 90, it was this double handrail, malarkey now. It was a single handrail, a toe board. And when you see that now, you think, let's run that.
Yeah.
I only ever seen it. I went in, we was at Palmer's, went to Castle Kellner, Rock Savage, on ICI, the big one. That's the first time I seen double handrail. I was like, what have we put this in for?
Got over it a bit.
It was contracts division. So when it was quiet on the outside, they send you in their Palmer's.
Yeah.
It was like, double handrails.
It's nuts, isn't it? And then you see people, looking, and it's just normal now to see a scaff step and see people looking on. And I even see some site managers coming out and the lads are behind a single handrail and they're not hooked on, but they're working to SG4. They are working to SG4. The site manager's like, why is he not clipped on? It's like, but it's gone such a massive jump in what we're on SG4 22 in 22 years. I think things are moving in the right direction. That TG1's massive.
Changing for the better.
Yeah, things are changing for the better. And hopefully Rose part of that
will continue.
Part of that change.
Hopefully.
Chris, massive thanks for coming on. It's been an absolutely fascinating chat. I'd say this one out of all of them has been the most scaffold-centric episode of the podcast. But, we are a scaffolding podcast at heart. Yeah. I think a lot of other people have come on and told stories about their life outside of scaffolding and stuff like that. But I think this has been a real insight to a lot of people. And I think it will hopefully inspire a lot of companies to make changes within the business and maybe even go out and start a business themselves, which I believe is good for everybody. More smart switched on scaffolding contractors leads to a better industry.
Not too many more Layher companies.
Just stay off that, or Stan will get you. Nice one, Chris.
Great. Thanks
I'll catch you again, mate. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.